Hi again, and let me formally introduce you, and then we can begin.
Okay.
All right. So your name is Andre. Am I pronouncing it correctly? I forgot to ask.
You are.
Okay. So Andre, you are the founder of the Portugal-based architecture firm, am-arqstudio. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. As well as a BIM consultant working with other firms across the country. And I'm sure that with the goal to promote the AC industry's digitalization, a unique feature of your firm is the application of BIM throughout the life cycle of a project, right from the design stage to the construction stage. And I'm sure that makes you a firm believer in BIM.
Thank you for the invitation, first of all. So it has been, let's say, a normal day for someone trying to build a company, I assume, with meetings and trying to focus on project also. So it's like being an entrepreneur and also an architect is a full-time job. So being in the two sides sometimes take you too much time of your day, but yeah, I'm good.
Glad to hear that. So you have worked both as an architect and then later a BIM specialist. You're currently a BIM consultant. So can you tell us about your professional journey up to this point?
So I started as almost everyone. When you leave the school and you need to find an office to start your journey as an architect. So I was trying to find the most suitable company as according to my current situation, where I was living, how much I would need to pay to go to some other place and so on. So I end up in this first company near my family house. So it was easy for me to travel there, and then also because the costs of moving and traveling. So that was my first experience, and it ended. I think in the end it was kind of the first step to learn how things are more pragmatic than when you are at school. So where things are more realistic, and you have that cold bath where you look and say, okay, it's not exactly what I was expecting, so I know nothing, and I need to start to find my own path. And in that term, it was really nice because I'm not evaluating the quality or the office itself, but it was a good opportunity to understand what I would like to do and what I would like to do in the future. And with that in mind, the type of projects we were doing there, really short time, and we need to do lots of changes on the projects. I was kind of getting tired of just changing things because someone told me the wrong information and someone was thinking another way and probably thinking, okay, I'm telling you exactly what I want, but then they were not thinking correctly. And in the end, me as a designer, as an architect, I was the one in charge of changing everything, even if the information I was receiving was not right. So I was proposing and trying to find new ideas, new solutions, new technical solutions that allow me to be more an architect instead of just trying to redo things that were not well communicated in the beginning. I at that point I tried to implement or let's say to bring Revit inside the company, but they were not really interested in it. And after a couple of weeks saying, okay, we will think about it, but then they would simply not go with it, I started to look to another company. To be honest, in the beginning, like almost everyone, I was like looking for the tool itself. I was like, okay, I need a tool that allow me to do things better and take me some of this time that I'm working and redoing things. So I found a company that was working with Revit at that point. And it's like, okay, I need to apply to this company, but they were at that moment already searching for someone that was able to use Revit. And I was not that guy at that point. So I spent my time, my after work time, creating a project in Revit, trying to put something on my portfolio, trying to understand better the tool, and then stamp it on my CV and apply to that company. I got the job. It was really funny because in one of the interviews, one of the owners just sits in front of me, and it highlighted the percentage of how much I know Revit. I said, I know Revit 75%. And he said, do you stay with this? And I said, yeah, I think so. But in the end, he said, yeah, we are using Revit for 5 years and probably we know 50% of it. So probably this is not that right. But it was okay. It was really nice. And I stayed there. And for the next 8 to 9 months, I just stayed there and work in Revit day after day. I think the most interesting part was that I was doing, from the beginning, I was always trying to do my own projects, trying to identify, okay, what can I do that has my own language, my own ideas. So I was doing project with Revit in the company and also experimenting things on my own after work. So it was like having extra hours of practice. So that was a really nice time because I was really learning a lot, and also I had good colleagues that were really good at what they are doing, and that was really good for me because I was looking to them and say, okay, I need to reach that level. And after these months, we have a good relation. I have a good relation with the company, but I was looking for something more. That's why I started to understand that only the tool won't be enough. So only knowing a tool to do a project is not enough. You need to know how to manage information, how to create elements that will allow you to do things better. For instance, objects that are parametric and stuff like this. So I found a company in a major city in Portugal. So I was like, this could be an opportunity, and I just applied to them. And they were at that point, they already had some lessons about Revit and some courses. So the team already knew the tool, or at least part of the tool, but you're not able to do anything with the software. So this is where I think it was like a key moment, because knowing a tool, knowing that, okay, it's possible to do it with the tool, but not being able to apply that to a project because you don't have the content, don't have the knowledge. You're just applying the tool, just opening it, putting there the projects. But in the end, you are like using the tool the same way you were using the other tools previous to that. So it's like in the end, trying to go to Revit, but still trying to draw over your screen with a pencil. So it's not feasible. So they were not able to do it. And only after kind of a year, I think they had the course in March or something like this, and I was hired in December. So after that, I started to create the content for the company. I was more in a BIM manager role, even if I don't have all of the knowledge, but I was really eager to learn. And of course, I knew lots of things here and there, but I need to glue everything. And the company was also on that process, so we are aligned on that. But I was doing the teaching part, showing how they should apply the things, the tool to the project, also creating content so it can be easier for my colleagues to use the tool. And when I left, everyone, and they changed a lot of people inside during that year, but when I left, everyone was doing projects in Revit. So that was really good for me. And I said, okay, I have done something good here. So they are able to do it. And even now they are still working with Revit. So I was like doing architecture project, but doing also implementation. So this is something that starts to be really complicated at a certain point, and something that traditional more, I think it's also cultural, but overall the size of the companies, if you have a small company, people tend to put everyone doing multiple jobs, having multiple roles. So I was doing multiple things and not being able to focus on anything. So I said, okay, I need to continue with this journey. I need to learn more. And that's when I applied to a master. Of course, at this point, I always had my own projects, but I applied to this international master in BIM, and I was accepted. And I was also creating my company at that point. So it was really a tricky moment for me, because I was like studying almost every day and then going home and working and applying actually the BIM principles that I was learning during the day and applying them on the night on my projects. So it was like really an intense year. I also had the opportunity during my thesis to work for a company that was doing BIM implementation and also developing tools for Revit. So it was like, okay, I knew at that point that BIM was really a vast world, and that was really an opening for me for being able to understand that what I was looking for in my first career years was not exactly what I was looking for at this moment. So I understand, okay, the evolution is constant, so you need to be always aware of that. So the way I found to keep my interest open and not being that guy that thinks, okay, drawing by hand is the only thing. I'm not saying it's a good or bad. I like to draw also, but the thing is, if you are always concerned about what is the next thing and being near the curve, it's really a good place to be. It's you may get tired sometimes, but it's good because you are always putting the professional part, the architectural practice, the construction, and of course the knowledge of BIM side by side. So one will influence the other, and you are always trying to find something new. And that's really my way of being in this field, is trying to find the next big thing and try to make the project better with that next thing. That's a good thing, no? Not just, let's say, I'm not applying or using a new tool just because. I'm using it because I found the value in my projects. So that's really how I see my career until now.
Thank you. That's a really, I would say that's a really eventful and like you, it's like your interest in Revit started your interest in BIM and how to find better tools for the projects. And now you already have your own architectural firm. So can you also share with us like why and how did you manage to start your own firm?
So it is like the moment you decide that you are in that position that you should be doing something by yourself, it's kind of difficult because it's very risky and it takes courage. I think I'm not saying I'm the bravest person in the world or something like this. Lots of people are doing are creating their own companies, but it's assuming that you realize that the best way to promote some good solutions in the industry is to be free of some other people concerned. So I was at a certain point really blocked by what the other thinks that was the good solution or what we can do. And that was not working for me. I was like, okay, I understand that for a company to work, there are some boundaries regarding the time you spend, the what you can research, what you can use, even the tools that you can purchase and stuff like this. But for me, that was blocking also the creativity part. So I was in the middle of this process of trying to find the best solutions for the best way to create a project, but simultaneously I was not able to explore it and not being able to go to a company and simply open a course and trying to understand how can I apply Dynamo for this solution and spend this time on research. It was something that was making me really not happy. And last part of the company name, the studio part, is something that I wanted to keep because my idea was always about this capacity of using the work we are doing or the work we have done to study and develop new ways of doing things or better things. Okay, and we have major star architects doing this. Of course, we don't have this kind of structure yet, but the idea is to promote this investigation, this research, this capacity of innovation, instead of just going with the flow, trying to develop in-house some knowledge, some content that will allow you to evolve. So it was kind of this mix between technology and the architectural practice. I understand that for me, it's important for them to be connected and having the time and the free of mind to simply at a certain point stop and just go look to things that can impact your projects. That was something that I was not able to do in other companies. And I understand why, because normally people are not paying someone to just do research, but I think it's part of the process. And I think it has good value for the company and of course for people that work here, because doing the same thing for 40 or 50 years is not my way of seeing the profession. And I'm happy because I'm also side by side with some people that are here for way more time than me, but they have the same principle that, okay, I'm able to adapt, I'm able to see what comes next, and I'm always researching for something new. And that's good. It means that you're not alone. And that's a really kind of a relief when you know that other people have succeeded with this.
Okay, that's I'm sure like starting own firm, it's not an easy feat, but it is also the dream of many architects, you know. So what would you say is the best thing about starting your own firm? And also, what challenges did you face along the way?
I will start with the challenges that I'm still facing, to be honest, and because there are always new challenges and scalability, and always you are kind of alone because it's a process that it is in your mind. So you need to, okay, how can I? And even for people that live with you, it's really difficult to make them understand exactly what you are thinking about. So this is really uh, one of the challenges, right? So trying to take things off your mind and make them stay clear enough so you can apply them. But I think the best thing and the best feeling that you have is when your buildings are good. Okay, when you are able to do a good job, and the client is happy. Okay, and when I was on the other side, just working for companies, that is something that probably you miss. It's the relation and the translation of the information. And in architecture, this is something really important because you need to translate some ideas from a client that probably don't have the knowledge in the field, and you need to create a project, a product that answers those issues. And in the end, you spend, let's say, 4 years interacting with people that probably you didn't know before, and you reach that key moment, that macro moment where you just stay there and the client goes inside the house for the first time as a finished product, and you say, okay, I was able to do it or not. And the moment of silence when a client goes inside and simply stays there without saying anything is really a frightened moment, but also really enjoyable because you see, you can understand when a client really understands the value. Okay, and bringing value to these projects where people spend too much money, even nowadays, especially nowadays, it's something that puts lots of responsibility on your side because you need to be able to deliver a product that lives up to it. So yeah.
Okay. So I think my next question is also one of the questions that architects will be curious about. Uh, how did you land your first project?
Yeah, I think the scale of the projects you land is also related to the people that know you well. To be honest, one of the first projects I won, I was working for that same company, but not as an architect. Okay, so during vacations, instead of just going to the beach or stuff like this, I was in the construction field working with my father, and I was on that company because he was already working with them. So I was there helping my father. Okay, and this was during my university time. So vacations, I went there helping him, and so on. So once I finished the architectural school, of course, I was not doing it again with my father, but in the first year, I think, if I'm not wrong, they asked me to just do the coordination of a project and try to and propose some ampliation of one of the buildings they had. And actually, I still have this relation with this client because then all the projects come because they enjoyed. I think they enjoyed my projects. But it was kind of this relation between what people see in you, even when you are still studying as an architect. Okay, so if you are able to communicate that you're not just one more person trying to do the same thing as anyone else, this I think will have an impact. So in that case, I was just gaining a new project without them knowing, okay, have you done anything in architecture? They were kind of testing me, but also having the confidence that I was able to do it because they knew me, and then I have already speak with them previously, and I was not afraid of going to the construction site and doing things. So they knew that at that point. And of course, this was one of the most interesting clients, to be honest. And of course, the family is also the second step, right? There is always someone in your family that wants to build a house and think, we have an architect on the family, so let's go with him and stuff like this. And one thing follows the other. I think it is the time when you are creating your company that has impact, because if probably people around you are starting to build, you are in a good economic conjuncture and stuff like this will help you, of course. But then it's a lot about your speech. Okay. To be honest, one of the most interesting projects I have until now, and even the relation with the client, I was in vacations with them actually, but they have decided that they were going to work with I'd say a more experienced architect. Okay. And I was okay with that, to be honest. It is, you need to be okay with that. You lose work every day you want also, but I was okay with that. And simply because we are informally speaking about architecture and what they were thinking and so on, I simply started to play with some volumes that were on the table at the moment and say, okay, well, why don't you try this and that and so on. And they were really pleased. And during the rest of the vacations, almost every night we were speaking about projects and architecture. And when we come back, they simply said, okay, we want to go with you. And that was really nice, because I understood at that point that if you are clear about your intentions, about how you speak with the clients, with people that really don't have the knowledge about the building, about the architecture and so on, people will understand that you are the right person to translate what they have on their mind into a real thing. So sometimes we forget about this. And then it's all about your office work. It's about you going to your office, being able to translate that and having the tools to do it. So in the end, they were able to also build their house and not spend that much money with extra things, because we were using BIM at that point. So it was really good, because it was like a test, and in the end, they were not spending way much more money than they were predicting, and that's really good.
So based on what you have been mentioning, it seems like it's all through networking. So I'm sure like networking is very essential for any professionals. I think even more so for architects. So how do you manage to build connections and network with people to grow your firm?
So I think networking is something that you start to appreciate when you start to get some years of experience, to be honest, because otherwise they're just friends and family, and that's not very profitable or really sustainable, because after a while your family already have their houses, and friends don't want to build houses, they go to apartments or stuff like this. So it's not a good way to try to create your company under that. So networking is something I'm still working on it, and what I think it's because it's a let's say daily job, because it's about finding people that follow the same principles. Okay. And sometimes, because we have these really small interactions, sometimes you really find a match and people are really nice, and you even speak daily if needed. Others, probably you will find a match, but it takes too much time, or it won't happen at that moment. So you always align your networking also with the timeline. So some things will happen now, but most likely the networking you are creating will bring some value or some extra value in a couple of years or more. Okay, but overall, I think that the most interesting perspective I have about networking is that that by myself I can only find one issue at a time, and in a network system everyone has their own problems, so they will bring those problems and we'll talk about it, we'll brainstorm about it, and it's really nice, because you start to think about things that probably you never thought about it because you didn't have that issue at that point. But with that kind of interaction, you find, okay, if they are finding this issue, I will find them sooner or later. So let's try to figure out the solution for these, and probably they will be happy and we will be happy also with them. But overall, I think networking is something that you should work on it. It takes time, it takes experience. I'm not, to be honest, I'm not most experienced person in developing the networking. I'm still working on it, but I understand the value, and I'm forcing myself also to try to find and develop this network, because In the end, it's all about people. The experience, the user experience, all the opportunities and tests that people have done will have impact on your own project and on your own way of seeing things. So networking is extra value to all of that.
Thank you. Okay. And so for my next question is also about starting own firm. We know that there are, generalist architects, and then which I would say are like the majority, and then there are the specialized architects. So is it necessary to choose a niche when we are starting a firm? If so, how do we choose one?
That is really a tricky question, and I was even recently listening some interesting people from major architect companies talking about it. I don't like to think, and it's curious because I now remember that one of the first post-graduation discussions I had with a friend of mine was about specialization, and she was thinking, okay, we should go and specialize, and I was like, yeah, but I don't know exactly what I want to do, and probably I want to explore and do different things. And probably if you go to one typology to the other, you can add some extra value because you tested in certain parts of that project. So I will say that I don't want to be a specialist. Even if being a BIM specialist, it's kind of curious, but in a certain way, I think, and I was also discussing with another mentor about the super users book, and the idea that you may have someone that is able to connect the dots and finding the best solutions for the right problem. I think I will apply the same principle to the architecture and this idea of specialization. I think it's important to understand the value of diversification. Of course, you may say, I don't want to work in hospitals or something like this, but I think you always need to find someone that you will be very, very specialized in doing these really nice tasks, and you go there and in 10 minutes, he or she solves the problem. But for me, and even someone that is, let's say, a company founder, I still don't know the right name to use, but someone that builds their own company, it's more important to hire and identify the right person that maybe is more or less specialized than being a person that is specialized, because I need to find the right person to solve the issues, and that's how I will create a company that probably has someone that is better than me being an architect, but it works with me because he or she likes and he understands the value that he can to brings to the company. And so I'm putting a team of people instead just having someone that is really good doing everything. So I will stay with the generalist and being able to work in different projects with different tools, being open. Let's call it like that. It's a good being open BIM and open standard and open source. So I think it's a good way of being in this industry. And of course, knowing a little bit about things. You shouldn't expect to be the person to go to if you're not specialized, but at least you will be the person that brings all the plan and being able to say, okay, if we need to solve this, we have this issue for this kind of building, so we go to this person and that person. So you manage the teams, you know what is needed, and you just need to ask someone to do it. And again, it's the same with what I said before with the client. You are translating information. You have the issue, but you need to translate to someone that will be able to identify, okay, to do what you are asking me, we should go these, and these. So yeah, I am kind of more of a generalist person, but I think it comes with the job, and because I'm trying to build a company, I need to be more generalist kind of.
That's also true. So since you talked about creating a team and finding the right person, what qualities do you look for while recruiting a team member?
I think one of the things I found more interesting, and I'm also kind of learning how to recruit people because I was on the other side, so not a long time ago, but it's to understand the intention during the time they will be staying with us. Of course, people have their own intentions, but because you are a company that is starting, If people just come here for a couple of months and then go, there is no value for them, neither for us as a company. So people that follow the same principles and understand, okay, we want to develop this and we are going to try to help the company while we are also gaining knowledge and evolving with the company. This is something I think it is the main value at a certain point from the soft skills. But of course, you have the technology skills. I cannot, at this point, I cannot say, okay, let's work as a BIM company, but then we cannot be able to use BIM. Of course, that was one of the skills. People that know BIM and know some of the tools that allow to apply BIM. This is, of course, something I need to ask and to make sure people are able to do it. But I think this, I'm not. I don't like the idea that we are like there was like expression called cat monkeys or BIM monkeys. I don't think people should do it. So that's why I'm not comfortable just saying, okay, are you able to work with Rabbit? Okay, great, you can work with me. It's not that simple. I think the principle of having this alignment about what they want to achieve on their careers, and if they think, okay, I see that we can grow together, because people normally go to a company and say, oh, please hire me, and I think this will be really suitable for me. It's not being suitable for them or just for them, it's also for the company. So if they understand, okay, I am here and I want to work for your company, but look, your company will also have benefit that hiring me, because I know this, I know how to work with this and that, and I have experience on this and that. So I think this is something that I try to balance more in the interviews I'm making, because people tend to think, okay, the company will allow me to explore BIM or something like this, but they forget, okay, but the company will also will enjoy having you here while you are thinking differently, because you already are studying other, let's say, public spaces or stuff like this that are really things that we have interest in. So exploring also the dynamic of the exterior spaces, how user experience, how we extract data and stuff like this. So I think this is something that we understand the value of. And yeah, I think this will be the division between what we can consider soft skills and hard skills. So one more related to the technical and the BIM methodology, and of course the other more related with alignment with the company ideas, and of course staying with us for as much time as possible.
So because you have found your own firm, what advice would you give to someone who wants to start their own firm? You already have the experience of it.
The advice I will kind of rephrase it, because it's advice I would like someone to give me at that point, and probably help me to find it, is understanding where you have value on the industry. Okay. If you are just someone more that is trying to make buildings because you think you are amazing and stuff like this, everyone thinks that a certain way that they are kind of good at what they are doing. Even your family will say that you are good, so you should go through it and stuff like this. But I think what is important and will give you, let's say, some quiet space during the week is finding what is your value, where are you different from what already exists in the market. Because if you are just targeting for the same things as 1,000 people or 1,000 companies, in the end it's difficult to prove that you have value. You're just one of the 1,000. So yeah, I would say find, of course, what you like. It's important, because if you find that, okay, what is missing is really just doing these small details somewhere in the building, and you say, okay, but I don't like to do it, then you don't go. But if you find that, okay, I'm really good at this, I enjoy doing this, and I think there's something missing on the market, so I'll apply that. So yeah, I would say that.
And that's a really interesting question. I would say where you are or in the market, or where you stand in the industry, and how you will benefit in the industry. That's something really I think we all should think about. Thank you. Now we're at the final question. So to conclude, well, as a conclusion, can you share like some advice to all the young architectural graduates who are just entering the professional world? not BIM or anything. It's just like general.
Just entering. Okay. I'm just going. I'm just doing my path to the younger me when I left school. And I think it's one of the things that stays with me until today. First, not being comfortable is something good. It's terrible, but it's something good. Because not being comfortable means that you are paying attention to what happens around you. Okay. And not being comfortable means that you are looking for better things. And I'm not saying just moving to another company is the solution. It's not that kind of thing. It's more about, okay, knowing that there are things happening around you, and probably we are just blocked by what people are saying that is what has to be done. And probably people saying, okay, you are just a young architect, so you do this. It's not about that. It's more about you being uncomfortable and saying, okay, they are saying to do this, but can I do other things? What is happening around me? Where are the value of this industry? Am I going to stay here as an architect? Am I going to be an architect but no scope? So I'm going to create my own tools. So I think overall, not being comfortable, I think it's best advice. It's not easy because it's kind of tired sometimes, but I think it's really a good way to see, because you may feel amazed, and I was saying that just before, when I see one new thing happening, I was like, okay, this is nice, and then this is nice. And so if you start to pay attention to way too many things, but at a certain point you'll start to rationalize, and okay, I'm uncomfortable, I'm understanding things happening, I will read about them, I will try to see, okay, where it is, does this have any value for me or for what I want to do in the future? So being uncomfortable is really my best advice. I don't know if this is good or not, but let's see what what happens with people that follow my advice in the future.
That's not really an answer that I think someone would, expect as an advice being, but I think that's also makes sense because we're learning new things. We won't be comfortable with things that we don't know, we're not familiar with. So I think what you said makes really makes sense, and it's also very relevant.